Tony, I want to turn to you. I think a few months ago, you wrote an article in the National Post, where in that article, you talked about the role of the MEK, which is the primary organization to the broader coalition of the Iranian freedom movement, the National Council of Resistance of Iran. And you talked about their path forward for a free Iran, a non-nuclear secular republic Iran. Tell us how you arrived at that conclusion that, yes, NCRI is indeed the alternative.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be on the stage with such amazing co-hosts here and co-guests, I guess. And of course, thank you, all of you, for coming here. And I know it's been a bit of a rough journey for some, and the court challenge for the demonstration, and that ultimately was successful. And I think this will be another successful conference that puts not only to the community within Iran and outside, but also many other observers, what is exactly going on in Iran, why it is important to have change. So I think that is a very, very good thing that this is occurring. And thank you, all of you, for being so supportive of what is being done. I will come to that article. I do want to say at the outset, just the pace of change that affects Iran has only accelerated in the last few months by not only factors within Iran, but also certain geopolitical factors outside the country. I think first of all about Russia's invasion of Ukraine. A stout ally of the Iranian regime. And of course, that in itself created an opportunity for the regime to supply these drones, these killer drones, to terrorize the Ukrainian population. And in fact, now the regime in Iran is building a new factory in Russia to actually accelerate the manufacture of these killer drones. This is another example of a terrorist regime at work. It's not just about what's happened in Syria, what's happened in Egypt, what's happened in the near abroad, if you will, for Iran, but it has major geopolitical impacts that President Biden and the U.S. administration and the U.S. Congress and all the other parliaments around the world must pay heed to. And of course, what's happened since the last gathering here is the uprising in Iran itself, a huge event which illustrates by the reaction of the regime how important regime change is, that people are standing up for their rights, standing up to the mullahs, standing up to the internal terrorism, and of course the reaction of the regime with the support of Russia and China and other autocratic states. They are deliberately killing and arresting people who just want their freedoms. So when I wrote that article, that was all before this, but of course, I think the desire for change has increased. And of course, the topic for our conversation is, what is the alternative? Because the Iranian regime, as we heard from the first session today, would like others to believe that there really is no alternative, that the alternative is bad, that the alternative is in some way defective. But of course, that's not the case. And when I got to meet with Madame Rajavi in Albania just this past January, it was clear to me how sincere she is. And we have this plan, and it has already been discussed here already, this 10-point plan that is coming before various legislatures and parliaments around the world. I understand the legislature of Connecticut was the latest to endorse the 10-point plan. Go Bulldogs. I don't know what their mascot is, but if it's the Bulldog, I was correct. But the fact of the matter is, this is gaining credence around the world, that people are realizing that there is a bona fide alternative that is walking the walk. And you mentioned it, Madame, that this is a democratic, pluralistic alternative. They do not want a theocratic state. They do not want a nuclear state. They want a separation of faith from the state, and they want pluralistic democratic values. And what more can you ask from an opposition than that? I ask you. Madame Rajavi is sincere about this. The militants who are, in the compound and just outside of Tirana are working so incredibly hard. They are denying themselves the things that the rest of us maybe take for granted, so that they can work as a team to effect change in their homeland. It truly is amazing to see. And as someone mentioned, I think it was you, Senator, they have been able to do so with focus, with energy, and they are doing so with the single-minded cause of bringing change in Iran. Of course, we cannot predict the future, but that's not a bad place to start in terms of an organized opposition. To have those goals in place, to have the infrastructure in place, and to have this plan that really it would be extremely difficult to change your mind on when you achieve power, because it is known throughout the world as Madame Rajavi's and the movement's plan. So I feel that that augurs well. I feel that the disinformation campaign is illustrative of how important this movement is. If they didn't care so much about the NCRI MEK, they wouldn't be going through all the effort of this disinformation campaign. So I think look, I'm a Canadian. I can send you my best wishes, but it really is up to the people on the street, in all of the cities and towns in Iran, and then all of the people in the diaspora to be unified and to be focused, and that will bring change. I have every confidence that that will bring change.
That's great.
Thank you.
That's right. Tony, I'm going to ask you the same question. Your message for the people of Iran and your top three on what they should look for in an alternative that is authentic and credible.
Well, the people of Iran have suffered greatly. Those who are there have seen their rights demolished, have seen even their businesses lost and their freedoms diminished day by day, year by year. And so we want them to know that they're not alone, that there are people who share their heritage, who are striving and fighting for their rights and freedoms, and that they are joined with allies from all over the world who want to see a pluralistic democracy take root in Iran. And I would just say this to the movement. It's very tricky right now. I don't want to gloss over this. This movement has to adhere to pluralistic and democratic ways of doing things to keep the confidence of people who are looking very closely to see whether Madame Rajavi and NCRI can actually walk the walk as well as talk the talk. And at the same time, the movement has to exercise discipline to achieve goals against a regime that wants them desperately to fail. It's not an easy thing, not an easy thing. Here's a little bit of hope. When I was briefed, when I was at Ashraf 3 about the movement and its activities inside Iran, I was heartened by how they do things to ensure that innocents are not injured. They are protesting, they are organizing, but they don't want to hurt their fellow Iranians, which is more than can be said for the regime that they oppose. And an example was given to me of attacking IRGC recruiting stations. They wait till the station is closed for the night. Then they firebomb the station, right? And to me, that illustrates that they do not want innocent casualties. And I think that's very important. It's an important message within Iran, and it's also an important message to those who are watching outside Iran, that this is a pluralistic and democratic movement, but it is also disciplined and tactically smart. I dare say smarter than the mullahs that they are seeking to defeat. So that's my message to the movement, as well as to the people of Iran. It is a message of hope, but it is also a message that you have to keep going. You know, Churchill said, when you're in hell, you got to keep going. And that's what they have to do.
Excellent. Thank you so much.